My name is Harold Mitchell, and I'm 65 years old, and 2 weeks ago, I was kneeling on the living room floor of my own home, counting coins my son-in-law had thrown at me for doing a good job cleaning his house. My house. The house I worked for 40 years to pay off. The house where I raised my children. The house where my wife died in my arms 7 years ago. My hands were shaking from hunger. I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't eaten a proper meal in weeks, actually. My fingers, these weathered, arthritic fingers that once built furniture, that once held my newborn daughter, that once signed mortgage papers and retirement documents. These fingers were now trembling as they scraped loose change off the hardwood floor I'd installed myself 30 years ago. And he smirked at me. My son-in-law stood there with his arms crossed, that disgusting smirk on his face, and he said, "Beggars don't get real money." Beggars. He called me a beggar in my own home. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and throw those coins back in his face. I wanted to tell him exactly what I thought of him, this parasitic excuse for a man who had wormed his way into my daughter's life, and then into my home, and then into my bank account. But I couldn't, because I was too weak, because I was too hungry, because somewhere along the way, this man had broken something inside me that I didn't know could break. Then the door opened. The front door, the one with the stained glass panel my wife picked out in 1987, it opened, and I heard a familiar voice say, "Dad, I'm here. Surprise visit." My son, my boy, Michael. He walked into the living room carrying a duffel bag and a smile that died the second he saw me. He froze, completely froze. The bag dropped from his shoulder and hit the floor with a thud that echoed through the suddenly silent room. "Dad," his voice cracked. "Dad, what is this? Why are you on the floor?" I couldn't look at him. I couldn't bear to see my son, my successful, strong, proud son, see me like this, on my knees, counting coins like some kind of beggar. "He makes me live like this," I whispered. The words tasted like poison coming out of my mouth. "I have no choice." Michael slowly put down his other bag, slowly, deliberately, and then he rolled up his sleeves, one arm at a time, never taking his eyes off my son-in-law. And what he did next made my son-in-law fall silent in seconds. But before I tell you what happened, I need you to understand how I got there. How a man goes from being a proud, independent retiree to a broken shell kneeling on his own floor, grateful for pocket change. Because it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly. So slowly, you don't even realize you're drowning until the water is over your head and you've forgotten how to swim. I retired 3 years ago after 42 years as a civil engineer. 42 years. I built bridges. I designed water treatment facilities. I worked on infrastructure projects that served hundreds of thousands of people. When I retired, I had my pension, my social security, my savings, nothing extravagant but comfortable, dignified. My wife Margaret, she passed 7 years ago. Cancer, it was the hardest thing I've ever been through, but I survived. I learned to cook for myself. I learned to do laundry, to manage the house, to live alone. My son Michael lives 4 hours away in the city. He's a financial analyst, doing well for himself, visits when he can. My daughter Emily lives closer, about an hour away. Emily married David 3 years ago. I had reservations even then. Something about him felt off. The way he smiled too much, but his eyes never quite matched. The way he was always looking at what other people had instead of appreciating what was in front of him. But she loved him, or thought she did, and who was I to stand in the way of my daughter's happiness? For 2 years, everything was fine. We had Sunday dinners sometimes, holidays together, normal family stuff. Then, about 6 months ago, Emily called me. "Dad," she said, and I could hear the stress in her voice. "We are having some financial trouble. David's business venture didn't work out, and we are behind on rent. We might get evicted." My heart broke for her, my little girl struggling. "What do you need, sweetheart? Could we stay with you, just temporarily, just until we get back on our feet? A month, maybe 2 at most." What was I supposed to say? This is my daughter, my flesh and blood, the little girl I taught to ride a bike, whose scraped knees I bandaged, whose tears I dried. "Of course," I said, "this is your home too. Come whenever you need." They moved in that weekend. At first it was fine. David called me sir. He helped carry in groceries. He offered to mow the lawn. Emily cooked dinners, and we'd sit together watching television in the evenings like a family. I thought maybe I'd misjudged him. Maybe he really was trying. Maybe this would bring us closer together. God, I was such a fool. It started small, so small I barely noticed. David began making suggestions. Sir, maybe we should buy the store brand cereal instead of the name brand. Save money. Reasonable, right? I agreed. Then it was, maybe we shouldn't keep the heat so high. Utility bills add up. Sure, I could wear an extra sweater. Then I think we should consolidate the grocery shopping. Let me handle it. I can get better deals. Okay, that seemed efficient. Within 2 weeks, David was making all the decisions about food, about household purchases, about everything. And I just went along with it, because they were my guests and I wanted to be accommodating, because I didn't want to seem like some controlling old man set in his ways. Then one day, David came to me with a concerned expression. Sir, I need to talk to you about finances. Emily and I are really struggling and we want to contribute, but we need to pool our resources to make this work. What do you mean? I asked. I think it would be easier if I handled all the household expenses. If you give me your ATM card, I can withdraw money as needed for groceries, utilities, everything. We'll keep track of it all, and once we're back on our feet, we'll pay you back. I hesitated. Something felt wrong, but Emily was standing behind him, nodding encouragingly. It'll just be easier, Dad. David's good with budgets. So I gave him my card and my PIN number because he was family, because I trusted my daughter, because I'm an old fool who didn't see the trap closing around him. He never returned that card. Within a week, everything changed. David stopped calling me sir, started calling me old man or just Harold in this dismissive tone. When I asked about groceries or household money, he'd say, I'm handling it, don't worry about it. But I started noticing things. The refrigerator was full of expensive cuts of meat and imported cheeses and craft beers, but only David ate them. Emily got some, I got whatever was left, which wasn't much. We need to ration, David said when I commented on it. Money's tight. But he was wearing new shoes, new clothes. I saw the shopping bags. I tried to access my bank account online, but my password had been changed. When I called the bank, they said the account holder, me, had authorized the change in person. But I hadn't. David had my ID. David had my cards. David had somehow convinced the bank he was me, or that he had the authority to manage my accounts. I was locked out of my own money. When I confronted him, he got angry, really angry. He stood up. He's a big guy, maybe 6'2", 200 pounds, and he stood over me and said, you gave me access. You want to live here, you need to contribute. Or maybe you'd prefer to try living on your own, see how far your pension gets you without our help. I was terrified. In my own home, I was terrified. Emily was in the kitchen. She heard everything, but she didn't say a word. That's when the allowances started. David would give me money for expenses. $5 here, $10 there. Once he gave me a handful of coins, maybe $3 worth, and said, don't spend it all in one place, old man. He was treating me like a child, no, worse than a child, like a pet. And in exchange for these scraps, I had to work. Oh yes, I had to earn my keep. This house is filthy, David said one morning. You're not contributing rent, so you need to contribute labor. I want these floors scrubbed, bathroom cleaned, kitchen spotless by tonight. I'm 65 years old. I have arthritis in my knees and back pain that's been getting worse for years. But I cleaned, because what choice did I have? This was my house, but he'd taken it from me. He controlled the money, the food, everything. Every day there were new chores, new demands: scrub the baseboards, clean the windows, weed the garden, wash his car, iron his clothes. And every day, the insults got worse. Move faster, old man. My grandmother could clean better than this, and she's been dead 10 years. You missed a spot. Are you blind or just stupid? He would eat. I'd get a small plate of leftovers, if anything. Some days, I ate nothing at all. I lost 20 pounds in 2 months. My clothes hung off me. I was constantly dizzy, constantly exhausted. But I kept cleaning, kept working, because David made it clear, if I stopped, if I complained, I'd be out on the street. "You think you can survive alone?" he'd say. "You're useless. No one wants a broke old man. You should be grateful I let you stay in your own house." In my own house. He said that like he was doing me a favor. I tried reaching out for help. I really did. I called Emily when David wasn't around. "Sweetheart, this isn't right. What he's doing, it's not right. Dad, please don't start. He's under a lot of stress. We both are. Just try to get along. It's temporary. We'll be out soon." But they weren't leaving. They showed no signs of leaving. David had taken over the master bedroom, my bedroom where Margaret died, where we spent 40 years together, and moved me to the small guest room. He rearranged the furniture, threw out my things. Decluttering, he called it. I tried calling Michael, but David monitored the phone. He'd stand nearby, listening, and I was too ashamed, too humiliated to tell my son what was happening. How could I admit that I'd lost control of my own life, that I'd been so weak, so stupid? I tried going to the bank in person, but I was so weak, so tired, I could barely walk the 3 blocks. And when I got there, they needed multiple forms of ID. They needed to verify security questions I couldn't remember because my mind was foggy from hunger and stress and fear. I was trapped. In my own home, I was a prisoner. And then came the worst day, the day Michael walked in. It started like any other nightmare day. David woke me at 6 in the morning, pounding on my door. "Get up. Living room needs cleaning. Kitchen's a disaster. Get moving." I dragged myself out of bed. My knees screamed with pain as I knelt on the living room floor with a bucket of soapy water and a scrub brush. My hands were shaking from hunger, from exhaustion, from the humiliation of it all. I hadn't eaten in a day and a half. The last thing I'd had was a slice of bread with nothing on it. I was so dizzy I could barely see straight. David came into the living room around noon. He looked at the floor, made a show of inspecting it, then nodded. "Not bad, old man, not bad." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of coins. Quarters, dimes, nickels. He held them out over my head and then he let them drop. They clattered on the floor I just cleaned, rolled in different directions. "There you go," he said with that smile, that cruel, satisfied smile. "Payment for services rendered. Beggars can't be choosers, right? Oh wait," he laughed. "Beggars don't get real money. This is what you're worth." I stared at those coins scattered on the floor. I stared at them, and something inside me shattered. I got on my knees, my painful, aching knees, and I started picking up the coins, one by one. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grasp them. Tears blurred my vision, but I picked them up because I needed them, because I was so hungry I thought I might faint, and maybe, just maybe, I could walk to the corner store and buy a granola bar or something. This is what I'd become, a man picking up coins thrown at him like he was some kind of street performer, some kind of trained animal. David stood over me, watching, enjoying it. Emily was in the hallway. I saw her out of the corner of my eye. She was watching too, and she said nothing, did nothing, just watched her father grovel on the floor for pocket change her husband had thrown at him. And then the door opened. "Dad, I'm here, surprise visit." "Michael, oh God, Michael." I heard his footsteps, heard his bag drop, heard the exact moment his breath caught in his throat. "Dad," his voice was strangled, horrified. "Dad, what is this? Why are you on the floor?" I couldn't look at him, couldn't bear it. "He makes me live like this," I whispered. "I have no choice." The silence that followed was deafening. Then I heard Michael moving, slowly, deliberately. I heard the rustle of fabric as he rolled up his sleeves. "Stand up, Dad," he said quietly, so quietly, but there was something in his voice I'd never heard before, something cold and dangerous. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't support me. I stumbled. Michael was there instantly, his hands under my arms, lifting me gently. I've got you, I've got you. He helped me to the couch and then turned to face David. Explain, that's all Michael said, just one word. David tried to laugh it off. Hey Mike, didn't know you were coming. Your dad and we've worked out an arrangement. He helps around the house, I give him spending money, everyone's happy. Everyone's happy, Michael repeated flatly. He looked at me, at my hollow cheeks, my trembling hands, my too loose clothes. Does he look happy to you? David's smile faltered. Look man, this is between me and Harold, family business. Family business, Michael took a step forward. My father is on his knees picking up coins you threw at him in his own house, the house he worked 40 years to pay for, the house you're living in rent-free, and you call that family business. We have an agreement. Where's his ATM card? What? His ATM card, his bank access, where is it? David's face flushed. I'm managing the household finances. That's not what I asked. Another step forward. Michael is not a big guy, 5'10", average build, but right then he seemed 10 feet tall. Where is my father's money? That's none of your concern. Answer me. Michael's voice cracked like thunder. I'd never heard my son yell like that. Never. Michael is calm, analytical, professional, but right then he was rage incarnate. David backed up, actually physically backed up. It's in the account. I'm managing it for the household. Show me the statements. I don't have to. David, Michael's voice dropped back to that quiet, deadly tone. You have 3 seconds to get my father's bank statements, or I call the police right now for elder abuse and financial exploitation. 1. David's eyes darted to Emily, who was standing frozen in the hallway. 2. Fine. David practically ran to the bedroom. Michael turned to Emily. How long? She couldn't meet his eyes. Michael, it's complicated. How long has this been happening? 3 months, I said quietly. It's been bad for 3 months. Michael closed his eyes, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. 3 months, and you didn't call me. I was ashamed, I whispered. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Dad, no. He knelt in front of me, taking my hands. You have nothing to be ashamed of, nothing. This is abuse, this is criminal, and it ends today. David came back with a folder, threw it on the coffee table. They're happy. Michael opened it, started reading, and with each page his face got darker. $12,000, he said finally. $12,000 withdrawn in 3 months. Dad's pension, his social security, his savings. Where did it go, David? Household expenses. $12,000 for household expenses for 3 people. Michael flipped through the pages. I see charges for designer clothes, electronics, expensive restaurants, casino transactions. Casino transactions, David. You've been gambling with my father's money while you starve him. I wasn't. Look at him, Michael shouted. Look at him. He's lost at least 20 pounds. He's shaking from hunger. There's no food in this house for him while you eat steak. David tried to stand tall. This is his house. He invited us, if he didn't want us here. Michael stood up. Get out. What? Get out, pack your things and get out of my father's house. Now. David laughed, actually laughed. You can't kick me out, I live here. No, you don't. You're a guest who's overstayed your welcome and committed financial abuse. You have no legal right to be here, and if you're not out in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police and pressing charges for every crime I can think of. Elder abuse, financial exploitation, theft, extortion. Emily, David turned to my daughter. Are you going to let him talk to me like this? Emily looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months, saw what I'd become, and I saw her face crumble. David, she said quietly, we need to go. What? We need to go, now. What happened next? It's a blur. David started yelling, threatening, making a scene. Michael pulled out his phone and called 911. said there was an elder abuse situation and he needed police assistance to remove someone from his father's property. David's bravado evaporated fast when he heard police. Emily was crying, kept trying to apologize. Michael ignored her, told her she had 10 minutes same as David. They packed not everything, just clothes, essentials. David tried to take some electronics, expensive things he'd bought with my money. Michael blocked him. That stays. You bought it with stolen money. The police arrived just as they were leaving. Michael showed them the bank statements, explained the situation. They took a report, told me I could file charges if I wanted. I was too tired to think about it then, too exhausted, too overwhelmed. Michael drove them away, Emily in her car, David in his, and then it was just Michael and me in my house, my quiet, empty house. "We're not staying here tonight," Michael said. "Come on, let's go." "Where's?" "Hotel, somewhere with room service and comfortable beds. We're going to get you fed and rested, and tomorrow we fix this." He drove me to a nice hotel downtown, got a suite with 2 bedrooms, ordered room service, soup, bread, a proper meal, not too heavy because my stomach couldn't handle it after so long with so little. I sat on the bed with that warm bowl of soup, and I broke down. I sobbed, great, heaving sobs that shook my whole body. 3 months of fear and humiliation and pain just poured out of me. Michael sat next to me and held me, just held me, my grown son holding his broken father while I cried. "I'm sorry," I kept saying. "I'm so sorry." "Stop apologizing, Dad, stop. You did nothing wrong, nothing. You were abused, you were a victim, and I'm going to make sure that bastard pays for what he did to you." The next morning, Michael was up early, made phone calls, lots of phone calls. He called a lawyer who specialized in elder abuse, scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. He called the bank, explained the situation. They froze the account temporarily and started an investigation into the unauthorized access. He called a locksmith to change all the locks on my house. He called a friend who's a police detective to ask about the process of pressing charges. He even called a therapist who worked with abuse survivors and made me an appointment. At the lawyer's office, I had to recount everything. It was humiliating all over again, admitting what had happened, but the lawyer was kind, professional, she didn't judge. "This is textbook financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult," she said. "We can pursue this criminally and civilly. Mr. Mitchell, you have a very strong case." She explained the process. We'd need to document everything, the bank statements, photos of my physical condition, any texts or emails, witness statements if possible. Michael had already taken photos of me that morning. The bruises on my knees from kneeling on hard floors, my sunken cheeks, my too loose clothes. We filed police reports, detailed reports, every incident I could remember. We filed for a restraining order against David, emergency protective order approved that day. We sent cease and desist letters to both David and Emily, demanding they not contact me or come near my property. And then we went home. A police officer accompanied us to my house. Michael had called ahead. When we arrived, David's car was in the driveway. He'd come back, the absolute audacity, he'd come back to my house after everything. The officer knocked. David opened the door, saw the cop, and his face went pale. "Sir, you need to leave these premises immediately. There's a restraining order in effect." "This is ridiculous. I live here." "No, sir, you don't. You're trespassing. You can leave voluntarily or you can leave in handcuffs. Your choice." David looked at me with such hatred. "You're going to regret this, old man. You have no idea what you've done." Michael stepped forward. "Actually, David, you're the one who has no idea. See, I spent this morning talking to some very interesting people, lawyers, detectives, and I found out some fascinating things about you." David's face went even paler. "Like how you have $17,000 in credit card debt, how you've been fired from your last 3 jobs for theft, How you've pulled this exact scam on two other elderly people before my father. Yeah, we found them, and they're willing to testify. I stared at Michael. What? Dad, this is what he does. He finds vulnerable people, moves in, takes over their finances, bleeds them dry, and moves on. You're not the first, but you're going to be the last, because I'm making sure he goes to jail. David tried to run, actually tried to run. The police officer grabbed him, and that's when David really lost it. Started shouting threats, struggling, making it so much worse for himself. They arrested him right there. Assault on an officer added to his charges. Emily showed up 20 minutes later, saw the police car, saw David in handcuffs in the back. She got out of her car slowly, looking between me and Michael. Dad, don't, I said. I was so tired, so done. Just don't. I didn't know it was this bad. I swear I didn't know. You watched him throw money at me like I was a dog. You watched me clean your floors until my knees bled. You watched me waste away. And you said nothing, did nothing. She was crying now. I was scared. He said if I went against him, he'd leave me with nothing. He controlled everything. He controlled everything because you let him, because you chose him over your father, because you stood by while your husband destroyed me. Michael put a hand on my shoulder. Dad, your blood pressure. No, I stepped forward. Emily, you're my daughter. I love you. I always will. But right now I can't even look at you. Please. Go home, Emily. Go home and think about the choices you made. Think about whether you can live with them. Because I'm going to have to live with the consequences of your choices for the rest of my life. She stood there crying for a long moment. Then she got back in her car and drove away. The police took David away. And Michael and I went inside my house. It smelled like them, like David's cologne and Emily's perfume and the lives they'd built on my suffering. We're cleaning this out, Michael said, all of it. We spent the next week gutting the house of every trace of them, every piece of furniture David had moved, every item they'd bought with my money, the expensive TV, the gaming console, the designer clothes still in my bedroom that I got back. We donated some to charity, sold some, threw the rest away. We changed the locks, all of them. We deep cleaned every room until it smelled like cleaning products and fresh air instead of them. And slowly, I started to heal. The legal process took months of statements and evidence and court dates. David's lawyer tried to paint me as a willing participant, said I'd given permission for everything, said I was being manipulated by my son. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, photos, medical documentation of malnutrition and stress, testimony from neighbors who'd noticed my decline, testimony from the two other victims Michael had found. And then Emily testified. She'd filed for divorce the day after David's arrest, and she agreed to testify against him in exchange for reduced civil penalties. She sat on that stand and told the truth, all of it, every horrible detail. She cried through most of it, admitted she'd been too weak, too scared, too complicit. The judge listened to everything, looked at David with disgust. Mr. Peterson, the judge said, I've seen a lot in this courtroom, but the systematic, calculated abuse of a vulnerable senior citizen by someone who was supposed to be family, that's a special kind of evil. David was found guilty on multiple counts: financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, theft, fraud, elder abuse. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, ordered to pay restitution, every penny he'd stolen, plus damages, permanent restraining order keeping him away from me. Emily received a suspended sentence and community service due to her cooperation, but she was also ordered to pay restitution on a payment plan she'd be following for years. When it was all over, Michael and I went back to my house. Our house, it felt like mine again. I sat on the porch where Margaret and I used to watch sunsets, and I cried, but this time they were different tears: relief, release, gratitude. Thank you, I said to Michael. you saved my life. Dad, you don't have to. No, listen to me, I was dying, maybe not physically, not yet, but inside. He was killing me piece by piece, and you saw it, you stopped it, you saved me. Michael sat next to me. I should have visited sooner, I should have. Stop, you're here now, that's what matters. We sat in silence for a while. What are you going to do now? Michael asked. I thought about it, live, really live. I'm going to eat proper meals. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to see that therapist. I'm going to remember that I'm a human being with value and dignity. What about Emily? That was harder. I don't know. She's reaching out, calls, letters. She wants to make amends. Do you want to see her? Part of me does. She's my daughter. But part of me is so angry, so hurt. She watched him destroy me. How do I forgive that? Maybe you don't have to decide right now. Maybe you just take it day by day. 3 months later, Emily asked to meet. I agreed, coffee shop, public place. Michael came with me, sat at a different table. Emily looked different, thinner, older, worn down by guilt and consequences. Dad, she started, and her voice cracked immediately. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did, what I didn't do is unforgivable, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. I listened. I was weak, I was scared. I let myself be controlled because it was easier than standing up, and you paid the price for my cowardice. She was crying now. Every day I think about you on that floor. Every day I hate myself for standing there and doing nothing. Why, I asked, why did you let it happen? Because I was trapped too, or I thought I was. David, he isolated me, controlled me, made me think I couldn't survive without him. And by the time I realized what he was doing to you, I was so deep in his web I didn't know how to get out. But that's not an excuse. I should have protected you. You're my father. You raised me. You loved me. And I betrayed you. I sat with that for a moment. Are you in therapy? She nodded. 3 times a week. I'm working on everything, understanding how I got there, making sure I never let anyone control me like that again. Good, that's good. I'm paying you back, every penny. It'll take years, but I'm doing it. I know. Silence. Dad, is there any chance at all that someday you might be able to forgive me? I looked at my daughter, this woman who had been my little girl, who I'd loved unconditionally for 38 years, who had hurt me more deeply than anyone ever had. I don't know, I said honestly. Right now, I'm still healing. I'm still angry. I'm still trying to understand how my own daughter could watch me suffer like that. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. But I continued, I'm willing to try, not today, not tomorrow, but someday, if you keep doing the work, if you keep being honest, if you show me through your actions, not just your words, that you understand what happened and that you've changed, then maybe we can rebuild something. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet. You have a long way to go, and I'm not going to make it easy on you. You don't get to walk back into my life and pretend nothing happened. I understand. And Michael is furious with you. You're going to have to rebuild that relationship too, if he even lets you. I know I deserve his anger. We finished our coffee in uncomfortable silence. When we left, I didn't hug her, didn't touch her, just nodded and walked away. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Now, 6 months after that day, when Michael walked in and found me on my knees, I'm sitting on my porch again. I've gained back the weight I lost. I'm eating 3 meals a day. Good meals. Meals I cook myself, or sometimes meals Michael brings when he visits every other weekend. I'm seeing the therapist regularly, working through the trauma, learning to trust again, learning to set boundaries. I've reconnected with old friends, started going to a senior center for activities, joined a book club. I'm living again. The house is mine again, truly mine. Every room has been reclaimed. The master bedroom is mine. The living room is mine. Even the guest room where I was exiled, I've turned it into a hobby room. Painting supplies, a comfortable chair, good lighting. My bank accounts are secure. Michael helped me set up additional protections, two-factor authentication, alerts for any large withdrawals. I'll never be that vulnerable again. Emily and I talk once a month now, brief conversations. She's still in therapy, still paying restitution, still working on herself. I'm not ready to see her in person again yet. Maybe in a few more months, maybe not. I'm taking it one day at a time. David is in prison. I hope he stays there for every day of his sentence. I hope he thinks about what he did, though I doubt he's capable of real remorse. Michael calls me every few days, visits when he can. He still feels guilty for not catching it sooner, even though I've told him 1,000 times it's not his fault. You saved me, I tell him every time. That's what matters. And he did. He walked through that door at exactly the right moment, or maybe the worst moment, the moment when I was at my absolute lowest. But he saw me, really saw me, and he refused to let it continue. I think about that day a lot, me on my knees, coins scattered on the floor, the look on David's face as he called me a beggar. I thought that was the end. I thought I'd reached the bottom, that there was nowhere to go but down. But that day wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The beginning of fighting back. The beginning of reclaiming my life. The beginning of remembering that I'm Harold Mitchell, a man who built bridges and raised children and survived loss and deserves dignity and respect. Sometimes late at night, I still have nightmares. I'm back on that floor, back in that prison, back in that hell. But then I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, and I remember I'm free. I survived. And every day I wake up now is a day I choose life, choose dignity, choose myself. If you're watching this and you know someone who might be going through what I went through, if you see signs of abuse, isolation, control, please don't look away. Please don't assume it's none of your business. Say something, do something. Because that person is trapped and they might not be able to save themselves. They need someone to walk through that door and see them, really see them. They need someone to say, this ends now. Be that person, be their Michael. And if you're the one being abused, if you're the one trapped and scared and ashamed, please know this, it's not your fault. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're a victim of calculated manipulation and abuse. But you can survive this. You can get out. You can rebuild. I did. I'm 65 years old and I'm starting over. And you know what? It's not too late. It's never too late. So please like this video, share it, subscribe, comment where you're watching from, because these stories matter, these voices matter. And maybe, just maybe, this story will reach someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's on their knees right now, thinking there's no way out. There is a way out. There is hope. There is life after abuse. I'm living proof. My name is Harold Mitchell. I'm 65 years old. And this is how my son saved my life.